Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome back to the Mixing in a Home Music Studio course. In this video, we're going to talk about setting up your session. So firstly, if you're new to my channel, new to my videos, and you like what you see, click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. So setting up your session. So before we get anywhere with mixing, what we need to do first is get into our mixing software and set up the session, song, project, whatever you want to call it, and get it all laid out, ready for importing our songs. So this is the first step that I will do in a mix. Now, generally what will happen is, as you get further down the track, you'll actually have a template. So the concept here is what we're going to do is I'm going to, instead of just showing you a template that I have, which I would use, I'm going to actually build that template right from scratch, right? We're going to show you step by step each thing that I will do to set up that first project, that first session, and then save it as a template ready to go for mixing in the future for every song that I do. Now that template, project, whatever, will adapt over time. As you progress through your mixing career or whatever it is you're doing, or you're creating your own music, you will learn things and you will adapt things. You will learn what you like, what you don't like. You will change your workflow, all that sort of stuff. So, I expect this template to adapt over time. But first off, we're going to start simple. We're going to keep it to what I think is normal, right? And this is my style. You can have any style you like, right? So don't necessarily take exactly what I'm doing and follow it exactly the same. I mean, you're quite welcome to do that, but you also need to fit in with your software, how it works, and also how you like to work, right? You may work an entirely different way than I do, but take the concepts and adapt it to what you like. So let's just stop talking about it and let me get into it, and I will show you how to set up a session. Okay, so I'm in Cubase here, and all I've done right at the moment is, because we're obviously going to set up our session, and I thought I'd go through this from the very start. Okay, normally I would bring up a template that I've already got or something like that. But what we're going to do is go straight from the start. So all I did was I basically just went new project, created it empty, picked a folder, and in my case here I created a folder, Home Music Studio Song Mixing, and just selected the folder, and up comes our track. Okay, so once I've done that, the first thing I usually do is just do a save as, right? Because at the moment it has not saved your project, and I'm actually going to call it exactly the same name. So Home Music Studio Song Mixing. Okay, you can obviously call it whatever you like, the name of the song, whatever your preference is for that. So I'm just going to save it. So now we've got it all placed, we've got it saved, ready to go. So every time I now click save, or Control S, then I'm saving it to where I want to go. Right, so we've got that set up. Now the next thing I want to do is make sure that we have our sample rate and our bit depth set correctly. So I'm going to go into project setup, and in here we're going to have a look for our sample rate here, and I've got it set to 44.1. So obviously set it to the sample rate that suits what you did in your recording. We should always be doing our bit depth in 24-bit. And again, it's determined by recording, but you should have recorded in 24-bit because that's what I always say you should do, and that's what we're going to stick to. The record file type, I just have it set to WAV. It could be slightly different on yours depending on the software or the platform, whether you're on a Mac or a PC, but in my case here it's a WAV file. Okay, so that's all good. So we're just going to okay that. That is now set up correctly and 100% fine with that. The next thing we're going to do is make sure that our tempo is correct. Now, hopefully if you've recorded your own song, you'll know what the tempo is. In my case here, the tempo that I set in the recording course was actually 60 BPM. So I'm actually going to turn off this active tempo track. I'm not going to use a tempo track because we're not adjusting the tempo through the song. I don't see any value in using a tempo track. So I'm actually going to turn that off and then just manually double click in there, and I'm going to put 60 BPM and hit enter. So now our BPM is set, and if you'd like, we can save our project. So we're ready to go. All right, now what we probably want to do is set up our tracks. Now we could either go through all of our music audio that we've got, or if you want to sort of set this up in advance to create a template, then we can do that as well. Now this is what it has just defaulted to create for us. We can clean this up, get rid of it, whatever. This is my actual main out. This is my speakers, they're focal monitors, right? So it's created that and it's put it in an input output channel folder, okay? I'm not exactly sure. Well, obviously I have the file, so I could know what we're going to create, but I want to go through one at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and I'm going to think about what tracks I would have in my template if I'm going to do it. Now, I want audio because what I've done is, if you were in the previous course, or if you would know this, but if you weren't in the previous course, what I did was, even if I had virtual instruments or anything like that, I bounced all of those tracks out to be audio files, right? Because that way I don't have to deal with virtual instruments. I don't have to deal with any MIDI, anything like that. Okay, I have been created everything as audio files. So every track in this that is not a bass or an effects track is going to be an audio file. Whether it's going to be a stereo track or a mono track, obviously that's undetermined at this stage, but we're going to make some calls on it. Okay, so I'm going to start off and I'm going to think, okay, I'm going to have some drums in my mix, okay? And I'm going to say they're real drums. Now, we could set the input here to just anything. I'm just going to leave that as default for the moment, just because I'm not going to set it. But it doesn't seem that there's really an option to turn it off there. So we're just going to leave it as that. And I'm going to start with stereo. I'm actually just going to leave the output as the main output right now. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this overheads. And I'm going to say there's one track. Right. So we've got one stereo overhead track now, and then we go audio again. And then we can do the same thing, but this time let's go mono. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just add a few. So let's just go 15. I'm not going to name them. Okay, I'm just going to add them there. Now what I'm going to do is double click in there, and I'm going to go, okay, I want a kick. I want a snare. I want, what do I want? I want Tom 1, Tom 2. Let me fix that name up. Put the space in the wrong spot. I want Tom 3. And I'm going to go for 4 just in case. And then I'm going to go hi-hat. Yeah, what else could we have? We've got overheads. I don't usually do separate cymbals, so we might leave that as is. Now, what I probably will have, and I should add that in, is a stereo track, because I'm going to have, and that one there is stereo. You can tell by the little 2 circles as opposed to 1. And this is going to be, we'll go with room, okay? So let's say that's our drums. And then what we're going to do is, okay, what else are we going to have? I'm going to have bass, right? So I'm going to have a bass guitar track that is mono. And, you know, that's pretty much it. So then I might go on to acoustic guitar. Let's go for electric rhythm. All right. We might have lead guitar. I probably should have put guitar in there. Okay, and we could spell lead right instead of lead. Okay, so we've got lead guitar. From there, we might have what might we have? We might have keys. We might have a piano. Now, these, depending, they could be mono, they could be stereo here, all right? So I might have, actually, you know what? I'm going to replace that. So I'm going to go, the mono track is piano, because that might have been recorded with a microphone. And what I might do is add a stereo track in that we're going to call keys. Now we want some percussion. We might want, I was going to say sample, but actually we'll come back to that one. So what else have we got? Let's add another one in, another stereo track here. We'll call that samples. Right, so we might have some sample tracks we want to add in. Okay, we might have an orchestral track. And then what we might have is, say, the main vox. And we'll go with, I'll just add two more mono tracks here, and we'll go BGV1, BGV2. Okay, so obviously you can add whatever you like, whatever you think you would use, right? This is to create your template as such. Right, so from there, we could set up buses or colors or whatever else. So what I'm going to do is I might start by setting up some colors. And what I usually do is I'll put all my drums, and I've got some predefined colors here. You can pick whatever you like, but I'm going to put all my drums as one color. Okay. So we're just gonna change the color here, and I'm just actually clicking in that spot here, going with the control button pressed down, and it brings up my color window. That's obviously a Cubase setting there. Right, so then I am going to say my bass is going to be light blue. My guitars are going to be red, only because I'm a guitarist, so I like it to be the brightest and most obvious color. We're going to have piano, we include as part of keys. Okay, so my keys and piano are all going to be the same color. And then percussion is blue. Samples are green. Orchestral. Now that is, do I have a color for orchestral? That's Vox. Yes, we have this lovely pink color. Okay, then my Vox is orange, and my BGVs are a slightly different sort of orange. Right, so we've got all of these lovely color codes here, which is great. But what I probably will also do now is create some bus tracks. Okay, so because I want to route these all to the various tracks. Now we'll do the routing in a moment, but what I'm going to do is just, now whether you put them at the end or at the start, that is entirely up to you. But I'm going to create some group tracks. They're all going to be stereo. I'll just leave it to the main output at the moment. Create outside folder. And I'll just I'll do about 10 at the moment. Okay. So I'm going to call that drums. I'm going to call that bass. Guitars. Keys. Percussion. Orchestral. Samples. And the reason these buses, because you might have multiple tracks. And then we'll go with Vox. And you might even have BGVs. And then what I'm going to have is a mix bus. Now I might write bus next to all of these just to be clear. Bus. Bass bus. Guitar bus. Keys bus. Alright, percussion bus. Orchestral bus. And samples bus. Alright, so this is obviously my sort of guide here. You can do whatever you like. Now, I generally will keep them sort of color-coded again, but this time we're going to find... What is the color I use for buses? Dark green by the look of it. So I'll set all my buses to be one color. Now again, this is personal preference. You can color code them the same as your instruments, or however you prefer it. You can do it the same way as I've just done it. That already is the dark blue. And the mix bus, I might do a different color again. And then we did have this one up here, which was the output, which I will give a slightly different color again. Okay, so we've got tracks laid out, we've got buses, we've got color codes. Okay, now what else we might add is some effects tracks. So actually, let's unclick that for the moment. Just make sure we're going down here. Now again, so I'm going to go with some effects tracks here. We're going to load no effects. And stereo, main out, that's fine. Create outside folder. And we might do Stiff 4. Right, okay. So this one here, we might say I want a room reverb. I might want a plate reverb. Right, so you might have a standard set of effects that you use on every mix, and that's what you're going to try and include here. I might have a delay effects, right? Something like that, all right? Then again, I'm going to have a color, and what have I got? I've got reverbs is this color, and delay is that color. All right. So we've got some effects. Obviously, we haven't put any effects on this stuff. This is just laying out the tracks right now. Now, what I might next do is set up some folders, right? So in Cubase, we have the advantage of having folders. So I might say, all right, well, I'm gonna... Yeah, it doesn't actually want to let me do that. So I'm going to drag that out of that folder. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm just going to remove that for the moment. And I'm just going to drag this down to there. So we might rearrange things in a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these drum tracks. I'm going to right click And I'm going to move selected tracks to a new folder. And then I'm going to call that drums. Now I might color code it. So in this case here, I might actually make it the same color, or I might make it slightly darker. And then we can collapse it. So all our drums are now in a folder. Now, might seem silly to do one track in a folder, but I'm going to do it because I might add more bass tracks later. Again, I'm going to go with a darker color here for the moment. I'm going to pick all my guitars, move to a new folder. I'm going to call that guitars, and we'll color that. And we'll just continue on. So we're going to go with keys. I already did the color. And we'll do percussion. And that one was that. Okay, samples. Now it might seem a little bit silly at the moment. Yeah, where? Might seem a little bit silly at the moment that they're named the same as the track, but what'll happen is when I actually put audio in here, I would normally rename that to what it actually is. And it probably wouldn't be called samples, it'll be called something more specific. Same with orchestral, right? You know, it wouldn't be called orchestral. It would be called violin or cello or, you know, something along those lines. And yep, keep going. So we'll go Vox. Now you can put your BGVs and your Vox together. It really depends on the layout of your song. Sometimes I find that I get songs that might have 8, 16 BGVs, and it might have doubles of Vox, ad-libs, all that sort of stuff. So there's so many vocal tracks, I want to keep them separate. But again, that all depends on your mix and what you're trying to do. Now, I will also probably put all of these into a folder, and we'll call that buses. And we'll give it don't really have a set color for that one, so we'll just go with that. And then these ones here you might group into another new folder, and we'll just call that effects. Okay, and we'll just pick whatever color. Alright, and then you might want to rearrange these. So I might say, well, I want to put the effects before the buses, so I'm going to lay out all my audio tracks, then my effects, and then my buses. Or maybe you work the opposite way. Maybe you put your buses first, then your effects, then your instruments after that. That is entirely up to you. So once we've done that, it might be a good idea to save as we're going, and just in case we have a crash and we lose everything. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set my inputs and outputs. Okay, now we can do it from this window here, right? Because we have our ins, we have our outs. But I actually prefer to do this from our mix window. So I'm going to open the mix window, and the reason is because I can see all the routing here for all the tracks straight away. Now, we are not going to be recording anything. So that says to me, first off, I do not, hang on. Okay, I'm just going to change my view here because I do not want to see my inputs. So I'm going to untick them. I don't really want to see these outputs. And okay, we're just going to make sure everything else is set there. So what I'm going to do straight away is I'm going to select all of these audio tracks. Okay. And I'm actually going to press the, oh, no, what is it? I'm going to press the Q link up here. And I'm going to actually change to no bus. So it's going to turn off all of the inputs. So now what you would have found before when we selected a track. So if I like put an input back on in Cubase, if I select a track, it automatically selects record enable. Now you can change that in your settings or whatever else. But if you aren't planning on doing any recording, you're just mixing. If you take away the input, then there's no chance of, first off, being able to record anything, and two, when you select these tracks, record enable can't be initiated and doesn't show up because there's no input, right? So that's what I do in mixing. I turn all the inputs off because I have no value in having an input on any of those tracks. Now, with our outputs, now what we want to do is set up our various routing. So I'm going to select all the drum tracks here. And what I'm going to do is I've got the Q link on still. And I'm actually going to now go and pick the drum bus. So it's now going to set, as you can see here, all of my outputs for the drums to the drum bus. So now any audio that plays on here on the drums is going to route over to the drum bus here, which can then go on somewhere else, right? And we're going to do that for everything else. So the bass, I'm going to come here and I'm going to pick bass bus. These three guitar tracks, we're going to route them to the guitar bus. Keys, again, same. Going to go to the keys bus, percussion, to the percussion bus. Then we're going to go to the samples bus, orchestral bus, right? And we're just going to continue on with, no matter how many tracks we've got, whatever we're doing here, we're just going to route it to how we want it set up. Okay, now the effects here, that can be done a couple of ways. What I have been doing lately, which I forgot to do here, is I'm actually going to add one more bus, stereo bus, and I'm going to call that an effects bus. Okay, we'll give it its color. All right, bang, it's in there. All right, back over to our mix window now. So I'm going to select these and I'm going to select effects bus, right? So they're now all going to the effects bus. Great. So all of our instrument tracks are now routing to all of these various buses here. Okay. Now, 2 steps left. All right. Our main mix bus here is going out to our focal monitors, which is our output. So that's fine. We're happy with that. That's going to stay the same. What we now need to do is actually send all of these buses to the mix bus. So you can see the routing structure here, right? Our audio is going to sit on these tracks. They're going to route to their instrument buses. Then those instrument buses are going to route to our mix bus, and then our mix bus is going to go out our speakers. And when we bounce out our mix, what we're going to bounce out is basically, well, you can either bounce out the focal monitors or you could just bounce out the output of the mix bus. And we can put final processing on that to do our mix bus processing, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so, but you can see the various layers here. So we can do effects at several different layers. Right, so we've got our structure right. I'm going to save again. So we're all good now. So what we can do now is we could save this as a template going forward. So this is our new template that we're going to use everywhere else, right? So I could go in here and I could go save as a template and give it a name. You can see here I've got a few templates, etc. that I use, you know, recording, full mix, all that sort of stuff, right? Beatbox type templates, ones with blank and ones that are loaded with various plugins. Now you might also have ones for different sample rates. You might have one for 44.1K, you might have one for 48K, you might have one for 96K, whatever. You can create as many of these templates as you like. Now we can save this obviously as a blank template, but what we can also do is save this as a plugin version, right? So you might come in and go, right, let's go back to our mix window. Let's reduce our routing, and then let's go to our inserts. Now you might say, okay, well, on my drums, I always place this compressor, right? I'll just pick something, fat compressor, right? Okay, just an example. So you might say, I always use this on all my mixes, right? So you could load it. I would still turn it off, all right? Now, not bypass, I'd actually turn it off. So activate the effect, close the window, do that on all your tracks, and then you could save it as a template with your plugins so that every time you create a new song or a new mix, you load it up. You've got all of these plugins already there, ready to go. Okay? Now, we're not going to do that in this case. We're going to leave it blank, and we're going to work from scratch. Now, in this course, what we're going to do, if I haven't already stated this, I am going to mix this song with, and I'm going to show you how I'm doing it, with only the plugins that come with Cubase Pro. Now, if you have a lower version of Cubase, some of these plugins may not be available, but hopefully you have most of them, if not all of them, or you'll have equivalent ones that you can use to use that. Now, I am going to also probably at this stage do a bonus video where I will mix the song again with my favorite plugins that I use on most of my mixes. And I'm going to show you how I do that. And then if you want to compare the two different mixes to see how they sound compared to each other, you can do that as well. Now I'm going to try and mix this as good as I can, but because of the way that I have to record these videos, most of it will be done with headphones. So I may not get exactly the quality I want, but what I will be doing is that probably off camera, off video, I will be going and referencing on my studio monitors. I will be referencing in my car or wherever else I would normally do my mixes to try and give you, you know, what I actually would be happy with a mix. Because sometimes if I mix entirely in headphones, I don't get the results that I actually want. They can be a little bit deceiving, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so that's what we got. So that's basically setting up our song, right? So we're pretty much ready to go now. All we need to do is start to get some audio in and do that sort of stuff. Now, the other thing we could do, just as a last thing, is we could actually add a marker track. All right, and I could drag it up the top. Now in Cubase, we can actually create a separate little window up here. And what I usually do is put a marker track up here if I'm going to do it. Now I might just change this color to something unusual. Geez, I don't know. Oh, we'll just go with that color. Okay. Now, what I might do is create some markers or that sort of thing so that if I want to put things to say where they are, you know, you can do that. But what I usually like to do is do cycle markers, and I will adjust them because they give me like a window here. So what I would do is, for instance, I might grab one here, and that one might be called we can put a description here. That might be called entire song. Right, and you can select that and you can actually give it a color, just like you can with everything else. But in this case here, I think you usually have to do it from this window. So I have predefined colors, so I'll go entire song. Now I might add another marker here. Oops, that was the wrong thing that it dragged. Damn it. My cursor is not going to grab it. There it goes. I'll just make it a little bit shorter at the moment. Okay, just trying to get the cursor in the right place. So we're going to pick that. I might say, okay, I want intro. We might add another one. I'll shrink that down as well. And that would be called, I don't know, verse 1. And these can all be given a different color. So I might say verses, they're going to be that color. That's going to be that color. Right, and you'll see they start to highlight there. Now, here, right, we'll do that. So this way what we can do is we can actually select portions of our song or go back to our entire song. And, you know, we can lay all of that out and use those if you so wish, right? We create chorus, bridge, all of those sort of things. And we can create those pretty easily. So, you know, okay. Let's get our cursor back over here. Let's add another one. All right, this one here, we're going to call chorus 1. Let's shrink it. Let's move it over to there. Ah, damn it, we shrunk the entire song again. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. Sometimes it's a little bit fiddly, but if you can get it done, but I include these in my template, all right? So generally I don't have to do these. I just pull them up and that's what I have. So I'll give the color something else for chorus 1. So all the choruses will be the same color, all the verses will be the same color, right? Intro out will be the same color, and then I'll have our entire song. Now when we load up our audio, because you have these predefined in your template, what you have to then do is actually size them correctly to the song. So once I put all my audio in, then I work out, well, this is the entire length of the song, so I'll adjust this to whatever the length of the song is. And then you might listen through and go, okay, here's the intro, I'll adjust that. Here's where verse 1 is, here's where chorus 2 is, chorus 1, verse 2, all of that, and lay them out in the right sections of the song so that you've got it all worked out nicely. And you can jump to the sections as you so choose. So you can do that as well to plan that into your song there. And then just save it. And as I said, you can include that in your template so that they are ready to go as you so need them. All right, and you can set that. Now, the reason it's good up here is because it'll always be there no matter what you do. So if I was to say, and let's go down here. Okay, so let's say I had all of these tracks sort of blown out like this, and I wanted to scroll the window. Now, if I'm up here, okay, let's go back to there. So I've got my markers here. With it up the top, it stays, and I can scroll this window without those markers moving. Now, if I had the markers down in here with this, they would disappear as I scroll because they're at the top of there. So putting them up the top here, and you can put any other tracks. They don't have to be just markers. You could put tempo tracks. You can put real tracks if you want to. If you always want to see your mix bus, you can put it up here and it can stay there, and that can be as big as or as small as you like. Well, not the track itself, but you know, you could have it halfway and just have all your buses in this section that never move, right? Your template is about your work style and how you want to do this sort of stuff, okay? So I'm actually just going to shrink that down and then just bring it back out again so it looks nice and neat. That can be smaller. There we go. And let's save again. So I'm not going to save this as a template because obviously I've got my templates, but I would obviously like you to save your templates as you go. All right, so there you go. That is how I set up a session ready for mixing and creating a template. So if you do have any questions or comments, put it in the comments below. Let me know what you think. And as I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I do read all the comments and I'll answer every comment that I can as soon as possible, or any question as I can as soon as possible. So again, if you like what you see here, please click the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. Hopefully the video has been helpful. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next part of the course.